What's up everyone? John from Beyond ARTV. I'm putting myself in a box here, aren't I? What's up? Welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 7 worst shifts in quality between albums. At least 7 of the worst examples that I could find. I did have some that didn't quite make the cut, so if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like on it and let me know that you'd like to see part 2 at some point in the future. So today, I will be talking about bands and artists that were not exactly able to capitalize on the great stride that they found on a great album, releasing a great album, and then immediately after that, dropping off in quality big time. So this, of course, will be dedicated to the worst of the worst mudslides that we saw, so to speak, and keep in mind that these are all just my opinions. Obviously, not all of the albums that I'm even going to be talking about do I hate, and I will be talking about bands that I love on here, artists that I love, and albums that are very near and dear to my heart. It's just that afterwards, sometimes they put out some stinkers, some duds, and some ones that were pretty damn inconsistent. So without further ado, let me just give you an idea of what we're getting into by showing you the first example. Here we go. To give a bit of backstory on this, originally in 2004, Green Day dropped their punk rock opera, which was called American Idiot. In 2009, it took them a while, but they finally followed up with another punk rock opera called 21st Century Breakdown. And that album was pretty drastically different, I would say, compared to American Idiot, which was much more loud and in your face and full throttle with its themes, and it had a narrative of obviously, you had Saint Jimmy, the Jesus of Suburbia, and here on 21st Century Breakdown, you've got something that is rooted in like the style of The Who, essentially, but it talked about Christian and Gloria, the 2 main characters here. That was a fantastic record. It had so much dynamic and a lot of velocity to it, and many diverse songs, everything from Christian's Lobotomy, Murder City, 21 Guns, and Peacemaker, which is criminally underrated. The album is great and has only grown on me with time. Following that up, obviously, we had a trilogy of albums, but the first of those was the worst of them in my opinion. And that album, coming out in September of 2012, is Uno. Uno was an album that I initially really loved, but I think it was just because I was blinded by the fact that Green Day are my favorite band, and I can admit that. I got that original review very wrong, and I am not proud of it whatsoever, but I leave it up just as a reminder because I know that I jumped the gun there. Listening to it in a more critical fashion, I guess a more realistic point of view other than, oh my god, new Green Day, this is the first new album that they've had in 3 years, I look at it now as an album that lacks in many different ways. It seems like they just kind of rinsed and repeated the formula of playing the song, have a topic, the good old days, or this old girl, or somebody that I used to know, and now we've linked up again, and a guitar solo, and then back into the end of the song, and then we're doing it all over again. That's honestly how I feel about a lot of the songs on Uno, and while I do still come back to some of the standout moments like Let Yourself Go and Kill the DJ, I can't say too many positive things for a lot of the deep cuts. They just kept running into walls, and while it's not an awful album by any means and can be a lot of fun, I understand that it is a good album if you're just wanting to throw something on, it's loud, and you just kind of want to lose yourself in the music and dance around and rock out. It is good for that. But compared to 21st Century Breakdown, it was a step down, big time. Gracing our list at number 6, we have Miss Taylor Swift, going from the record 1989 into Reputation, and unfortunately, that is a bit of a drop-off. 1989 is a fantastic synth-pop release that has surprisingly good emotional depth to it, a lot of solid songwriting, I would say some of her best efforts to date alongside the albums Speak Now and Parts of Red, and this one just felt really solid because it felt timeless. The songs here have an effervescent, kind of almost bubblegummy at times catchiness to them. They were not necessarily lighthearted, but they had impactful punches to them in the sense that the music stuck with you. Coming out of that era where we had great Max Martin, Shellback, and even Jack Antonoff produced moments, we shifted into Reputation, where I felt like Taylor was just going for shock value in a way, by dropping the lead single, Look What You Made Me Do, to some of the other cuts where she's trying to seem a little bit darker, a little bit older, a little bit more grown up. Oh, there's alcohol, there's sex, there's other things, look what I'm doing. It just kind of felt like a trick in a way. Not in the sense that she's not doing those things, but in the sense that she just seemed like she was trying to get street cred. Reputation isn't horrible, but it is a damn mess, and I for one don't have time to sort that out for Taylor. It's something where there's some good songs that I cherry picked off of there, and we'll still come back to, like Dancing with Our Hands Tied, King of My Heart, Getaway Car, obviously fantastic. That pairing up with Jack Antonoff on that one is just great. Even Ready For It, I can totally tolerate that single. There were some bad songs in the mix though. In Game with Future and Ed Sheeran is just a mind fuck of as to why that exists. And obviously Look What You Made Me Do. Totally toxic in my opinion. Obviously there's gonna be fans of Reputation and people that like that album better, but honestly if you look at the songwriting depth, quality, and compare the two, 1989 and Reputation, it's a big drop off in quality. Up next on our list, we have All Time Low, a pop punk and alternative band going from 2015's Future Hearts into 2017's Last Young Renegade. The difference between these two? Well, one is pretty damn great, and one kinda totally sucks except for a few moments here and there. The difference between the two, I feel like, is production, songwriting, and just the ability to actually play instruments and push their sound forward. I think it's important to note that bands can obviously change their sound. The biggest hang-up I have these days, though, is the fact that literally everybody is trying to go pop. They're like ditching the majority of their instruments, or else they become kind of props on stage. They're like backing things. It's like you see in the music video, like Jack is like furiously playing the guitar in like Dirty Laundry or something, and it's like you can barely hear that in the mix, at least until the very end of the song. I think that Future Hearts was a much more diverse album than obviously the one that came right before that, Don't Panic, which is Don't Panic is my favorite album from All Time Low, but Future Hearts was kind of spread out with its influences. It definitely was rooted in pop punk, but it tried a lot of new things, and I was totally okay with that. That record came out on Hopeless Records, but as soon as they signed with Fueled by Ramen, they just happened to release a bad album. Who knows? Who knows what happened there? But I think it's overproduced to hell, Last Young Renegade that is, and I think that the songwriting just didn't feel as strong, not nearly as strong as before. I think they had the songs in 2015, and 2017 they dropped the damn ball. Number 4, Weezer in This Wheezy. We go from 2016's excellent The White Album that channeled vibes of their earlier days. It reminded a lot of people of Pinkerton, and there was just a lot of songwriting that made you realize that deep down, somewhere at least, Rivers Cuomo is still the exact same nerd that he was all those years ago. Then we go from that to 2017's quick turnaround Pacific Daydream. That one, on the other hand, feels way overproduced, just totally on the opposite side of the spectrum. It's basically like Beach Boys worship with some modern production, and let me tell you, it feels like a computer glitching out and on its last dying breath in a way. Because it's not awful, but it just feels kind of awkward to listen to because some of the tracks you feel like you've heard before, some of them you know they could do better, and 3, we just came out of the White Album barely a year before that, and now we're thrust into this. No wonder it was met with mediocre reception at best because the majority of the songs just were not here. Even the songs that I like okay and can tolerate on this album, they do not stand up nearly as tall as the best of Weezer. Before Pacific Daydream, they had kind of been on fire with 2 straight releases. You had Everything Will Be Alright in the End in 2014, which was my favorite album of that year, and then you had the White Album in 2016. And then we're thrust into this world of mediocrity, and it's just like, I don't want to see you do Ratitude again. Please, let's not go back down that rabbit hole again. That doesn't need to happen. Let's just hope that they adjust their course and get back on track for the Black Album. Number 3, we have Lil Wayne going from the Carter 3 into Rebirth, his attempt at rock music. Now, Lil Wayne playing the guitar is about as graceful as like a 1-year-old attempting to tie their shoes. It's really just like hands like moving around and kind of attempting to put something together, but like it's not actually happening. I mean, if you ever want to cringe hard, just look up that performance of Lil Wayne trying to play the guitar. It's bad. Hey, I can't say anything because I can't play the guitar, but I'm also not a super famous celebrity out there on stage trying to do that and making myself look foolish. Lil Wayne's The Carter 3 is a rap classic, a modern rap classic, I guess I should say. So many songs on there that I can just vibe to. This was a record of my youth, and Lil Wayne was one of the rappers that actually got me more into rap. I had friends that were into him, Jay-Z, a couple of other rappers of the time, even Gucci Mane back then, and I was really into Lil Wayne, I would say the most. I definitely went through a phase. But the Carter 3, the nice thing about that is that it still holds up to this day. Great production, the songwriting, the lyrical punches, and the metaphors from Wayne, they were much more clever, and it felt like he was really on his A-game on that record. He brought it even on the single that's kind of silly, but I still like it, featuring Static Major, Lollipop. Then we go into 2010 after a couple of mixtapes. I actually did like the No Ceilings mixtape, but then we go into Rebirth, where he attempts to bring in the guitar and more of like a rock ambiance mixed with hip hop. And let me tell you, it was kind of disastrous. It's something that I think that a lot of people try to forget about it. A lot of Wayne fans even just kind of like write it off. There were a few songs there that I totally rocked out to back in the day, and now I look back to it and I'm just like, what was I thinking? I mean, On Fire is okay. That track Runnin', I don't know. I feel like it's a bit cheesy at this point. Lil Wayne getting a little bit emo and reflective there, but that's okay if he wants to do that. It's just the album in general was not up to par with what he was known for up to that point in his career, and has even done after that. Even the Carter 4 was way better. This next one really sucked for me because it was such a disappointment when it came out. Number 2, we have Reliant K, jumping from the album Forgetting Not Slow Down in 2009 all the way to Collapsible Lung in 2013. During this time off, I was very fearful that the band was going to break up, so once they announced their comeback single in the summer of 2013, I was super stoked. And I really liked Don't Blink. That song does appear on Collapsible Lung. Forgetting Not Slow Down was a piano and guitar-driven alternative record that had so much charisma to it. It was charming. Just listen to some of these tracks like Savannah, or even the title track, which is mesmerizing. And I think that this album in general does so many things right. It's catchy, it's urgent, and it's passionate, and that's all you could ask for from Matt Thiessen and company. And then you move into Collapsible Lung. And this felt like more of a commercial grab. And it was kind of like a, what are you doing? Like you walk in the room and you catch somebody doing something that they shouldn't be doing, at least with other people in the room. I don't know, it just kind of felt like that type of record to me. Reliant K have notoriously been a Christian band, and I felt like the themes on Collapsible Lung were a bit odd. Not that they can't do whatever they want to, that's like the people telling Under Oath that they can't say fuck in a song. It's just that it felt a bit odd because they were sending mixed signals. And to this day, Reliant K have moved back into the whole Christian rock realm. And I think that this was just kind of a blip on the radar, talking about some scenarios that he went through when he was at the lowest of lows. The songs are super poppy, the vibe feels off, something is just wrong about this record in general. That's why I feel like it was such a steep decline in quality after 2009's Forgetting Not Slow Down. Number 1, the worst drop in quality between studio albums. Who do we have? None other than rapper Eminem. Going from 2013's The Marshall Mathers LP 2 into late 2017's Revival. Ugh, just kind of shudder thinking back on that. I really don't want to listen to that album in full again. And I know what you're thinking, oh great, another hater that has no reason to back up why he hates Revival. It's actually great. I did a full 15-minute review on that. I think it's actually a little longer than 15 minutes. Go watch it. Just search ARTV Eminem. I promise it'll come up and it will tell you exactly why I hate this album for the most part. And I think that the worst part for me is the fact that not that the Marshall Mathers LP was just like Eminem's best album ever. It wasn't like, oh, Slim Shady's back, he's like the best thing ever again, he's on top of his game. It just was aging gracefully. And Revival, on the other hand, feels like somehow the opposite of that. It's like he's fighting so hard and trying to throw punches and trying to get all these pop features, and it just felt like watered down, try hard material from the former Slim Slim Shady Overlord. And I don't know why it exists. I really don't. If you're going to come back, at least do it right. And I feel like even though the Marshall Mathers LP2 wasn't the best thing ever, even for it being a sequel album, it held its own. It had funny skits, it had some other great songs on it that I really enjoyed, like Headlights, and I think that it kind of transitioned poorly, because then obviously we go for a few years off, and we come back with Revival, which started off with Walk on Water with Beyonce. Fine, a pleasant enough track. But then, throughout this album, he's trying to be funny in places, he's trying to be outlandish, and he's trying to get people triggered, so to speak, once again, just like he did in his early days when he would rap about things like lining kids up at Columbine and shooting them and everything. And now he's saying crazy things, and it just feels weird. It's like it's coming out of my crazy uncle's head, and he's like, in his 40s, and it's a little bit awkward. So that's my take on it, but I feel like this was a huge drop off. This is something where you go from something that is actually pretty damn good, and then you go to something that is just terrible and cringeworthy. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of 7 on Sunday on the 7 worst shifts in quality between studio albums. Let me know what you think of the list in the comments section down below, and let me know, what do you think are some of the worst shifts in quality that you've ever heard between albums? Anyways, drop a like on this video to show support for it. Help me get this video to 1,000 likes. Let me know if you want to see a part 2. I've already got a few other albums in mind, and other than that, let's go to the outro. If you're able to support me on Patreon, that would be greatly appreciated. It's this annotation over in the corner of the screen. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new here, and if you want to see last week's episode of the show, then tap right here. If you want to see another video I think you'll enjoy, tap right over here. You can connect with me on social media at the links in the description down below. Other than that, I'll see you soon on Beyond ARTV.